Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this week's video. It is a few days before Christmas. It actually is Christmas Eve when you all are watching this. I had to really think about it and be like, hey, this is Christmas Eve when you're watching it. And I pray that your week leading up to Christmas has not been chaotic. Let me tell you, the nightmares that I've been have had in the past when we get to close to Christmas Eve. One time I went Christmas Eve shopping with my husband when we were dating. Let me say it was the determinant that made us decide that we would never exchange gifts for Christmas with one another. That was more than enough for us to be like, let's go on over here and go get something to eat because your girl is hungry. I can't deal with all this chaos. It just be too much energies in the street. Happy holidays to you and yours. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, happy Merry Christmas to each and every one of you all, right, during the season. We are at my last number. Remember, we started talking before I even get into this. You know what? I'm rambling and I'm saying this stuff, and I ain't even properly introduced myself. Some of y'all, this is the first time y'all ever interacted with me. Y'all, my name is none other than Patrice L. Berry, aka the Tax Cop. You see it right there. Right there. Oh, because I pointed at it right this time. Right there in the corner. The Tax Cop. I am yours truly. Y'all, it is the end of the year. And we are going on break. What? But even though we are going on break for the next 3 weeks, we will be in your mailbox every Wednesday. And you can check us out on YouTube on Tuesdays and Thursdays where we reiterated some stuff that has happened. And then I'm putting together a live show trying to figure out, maybe y'all can give me some insight. What would be the best day of the week and time for me to do a live show on all things Talks with the Tax Cop, because my podcast dropped off. I'll be starting good in season 3, and that thing went dead. And I came over to you all and was in your mailbox every week. Now, some of y'all looking at me and some of y'all not. So therefore, we putting some of this information over there on the YouTube. And I am looking to do a live interaction type show where people come in. I talk about different topics other than just right here, because y'all still gonna get y'all newsletter, right? But other topics that are going on and pressing on and breaking stuff down, getting in the news a little bit, and kind of revamping how Tax with the Tax Cop actually happens to be, making it more like a live podcast type thing versus a pre-recorded podcast. So now, if I'm interviewing my clients, because really that's really what I want it to be. Talks with the Tax Cop, because y'all know my heart is for the entrepreneur, small business owner. I want to adjust that, but I'm looking to like evolve and do little things a little bit different, and actually take some time out and get into a space where I actually am streaming live and seeing how that works for me, right? So that's something new that's coming in 2026. But if there's a particular day, a particular time, a particular topic that you want me to break down, let your girl know. She's here for it, to make sure that we get the information we need. But today, we are going to round up our discussion on the 4 numbers on the tax return, breaking them things down so that they are palatable. That's my own sound effect. I need to work on my sound effects, y'all, for you. So we've gone through AGI. She is the queen of the tax return. I broke you down and told you she is the most important thing that I care about on your tax return, because she is setting the tone. She is your phase out determiner. She is going to be the start of your state tax return if you are in a state that has to pay taxes. For most states, because there are some states where she's not the start, but for a majority of the states in the United States of America, she's the start. And she is that powerful. Her queen to be. She lets you know she in the room, she in the building, she is here. Then we talked about her cousin, modified adjusted gross income, because between the two of them tag teaming and figuring out what you can take and what you can't take, and what limits you out and where you have barriers and what you can't, all of that stuff kind of matters. And then last week, we talked about what you owe them people and how you can determine what you owe them people and how they arrive to what your tax liability is. We even took you to publication 17 and showed you what was going on in them tax tables to show you exactly what's going on, because I missed the number. Because before that, we talked about the Kang, right? 2 weeks before that, we talked about the Kang. So we talked about the queen. We talked about her cousin. We talked about the Kang, your taxable income, because he decrees and declares what it is going on. So that would make sense as to why last week we talked about none other than what you owe them people. Why? Because the Kang determines what you owe them people. How could I leave out the Kang? Now, I'm not a feminist. I'm very much married to a man that I love and adore and believe in talking to the men. Okay? I am not one of them women is I am woman, hear me roar all by my lonesome. Baby, no. Hear me and my husband roar. Pause. That probably sound good. I believe in the king and the queen up. Okay? So understand that we talked about that. And then finally, this week, we're going to talk about what you paid them people. Because now we got to settle this stuff up. I told y'all at the beginning that all of this is not just, it's not rocket science. It's not calculus. I know, because I've taken calculus twice. It is just basic math. The most it could be is some algebra when you solve for the unknown. But we are really doing addition, subtraction, this finger. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. My hands on the left, my dexterity, okay? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's what's going on here. That is it. That's all. But there's a lot of rules. And so today, we're going to talk about what you paid them people. Because what matters is what them people say you owe them, but did you already pay them? Because the difference between the two, on top of some underpayment penalties and things of that nature, okay, will determine whether or not you actually get a refund or if you owe them people money, meaning you got to stroke them a check. So when we're talking about what you owe them people, right, we went through that. We talked about the tax credits and what the table tells you and everything like that. But now let's jump over to the tax return itself, because y'all know I'm going to go to the source. All right, I'm going to the source. Y'all see that whole section called payments. Whole section called payments. We're going to break this thing down. It's going to talk about federal income tax that was withheld. That means if you are a W-2 employee, right? And you had money taken out of your paycheck and you brought the net home, not the gross, the net, because them people already got their taxes. That number's going on line 25A. Right here. Right here. That's what's happening. It's going on line 25A. Now, y'all with me? On line 25B, what's happening is if you had a 1099, be it a 1099R, a 1099 div, a 1099 INT, a 1099S, they don't usually withhold anything from there. A 1099C, normally we don't withhold taxes from there either. 1099s are information returns. They are information returns. Like, hey, by the way, we already told you you got this main earnings, but they also took some money somewhere else, right? 1099B, 1099 div, 1099 INT, 1099R, right? And we took some other taxes. That's going to happen on 25B. All right, so that's where that money is coming out. And then we got some other forms that you take some taxes on some other forms, right? And then where's my calculation? Down here, sometimes we have, I'm going to jump down the amount from Schedule 3. Sometimes you pay too much in Social Security or you overpay in, that's where mostly I see it, is you got multiple jobs and your Social Security amounts are overpaid. And so there'll be a line on Schedule 3 that'll look like a payment. They'll go ahead and give you that money, give you credit. I'm going to say credit. I'm not going to give you the money back. They're going to give you credit for making that overpayment, and it's going to end up in the payment section. Now, they added up everything for the 25s, right? Now, on 26, if you made any estimated tax payments throughout the year, okay? If you made any estimated tax payments throughout the year, then that is going to be on line 26. An estimated, now I need y'all to see my face for this one. An estimated tax payment is not the same thing as withholdings. An estimated tax payment is also not the same thing as you paying a balance due. So let me explain what the difference between estimated tax payment and a balance due is. So we currently, even though this form is going to show you 2024, because that's the form I got, we are ending 2025. If you decide that you are going to get in front of your tax liability because you think you owe some money and you didn't withhold enough throughout the year. And you are going to actually make a payment for 2026. And you going in the system and you selecting 2026. That is an estimated tax payment, meaning we are getting in front of what is to come. If you are an independent contractor and you have not had money withheld through the year, this will be where your payments end up, okay? Because if you've been paying them quarterly, or you wait till the end of the year, or you wait till January 15th, which is the deadline for that extension payment, for Q4 extension payment, then your amounts will end up on this line 26. That is, we made a payment in advance to 2026. But if you paid a tax bill because you just got a notice because we just finished your 2024 taxes, and you are, hey, I just paid these people, plus I paid the principal and interest, that is not an estimated tax payment. That is a balance due payment. They're different. And it's not the same thing of having money withheld from your check. The estimated tax payments is, we think we owe this much, we're trying to get in front of it. It's the same thing equivalent to when you hear people say, I made quarterly tax payments for the new year. That's what they're talking about. It's not the payroll taxes if you own a company. It's not that. It's the actual personal, because we on your 1040, estimated tax payments that you got to get in front of what you think you may owe. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. That's on line 26. Then we on line 27. Earned income credit. Now, everybody don't qualify for earned income credit. Your income has to be a certain threshold. Thresholds are important in tax, right? You have to have a qualifying child or dependent, and you got to fill out a form. And a calculation will happen with that. Certain questions have to also be answered to ensure that you qualify for earned income credit. Now, if you got this on your tax return and you do not qualify, understand them people is coming for you. All right. And I don't mean they coming in a big black car and gonna boop you like Men in Black. They're not gonna do that. They gonna ask you politely for their money back, and you're gonna pay some interest and penalties with that. Do not be claiming earned income credit, and you do not supposed to have it. Okay. All right. So that's on line 27. Additional child tax credit. So then sometimes we have, remember, I went in too far on that. Let me come out. Y'all. Boop. 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 Y'all probably like, why is she making that noise? She don't know. All right, she got it together. I am she. I am her. I be having technical difficulties, y'all. Y'all should know this by now. Me playing around with this thing. I'm on this mouse. It's not the trackpad. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna stop playing. Additional child tax credit. Let's take it to the top. When we are up here in the tax credits, we have a child tax credit up here. But sometimes we get phased out for whatever reason. And there'll be a calculation to determine if we get that difference, the additional child tax credit. If we do get that additional child tax credit, it will end up on line 28. That is what that says here. American Opportunity Credit. That is an education credit. And if you qualify and you in those income thresholds and you get it, that's where it's going to be a refundable credit. Remember last week we talked a little bit about what was a refundable and what was not, and we gave you a list of those. Additional child tax credit will help to make you be a refundable credit. An American Opportunity Credit will help you be a refundable credit. That it's going to happen down here because it's going to allow you to be seen as a payment to end up getting a refund. All right. And I already talked about amount from Schedule 3, right? So I'm going to switch screens on you just because I can. Bada boom, bada bing. Did it load? It took a minute to load for y'all. And this is publication 17. And on publication 17, what you'll see here is a section. We'll talk about the EIC. A whole section here talking about each one of these payments and how payments are done and how payments are not done, right? Line 25 on. What I just described to you. This is actually the instruction that's telling you what goes into each one, what you can take, what you don't take, right? As I told you in the 1099s, we got the 1099R, we have a 1099 SSA, that's from Social Security if you withheld money, etc. Not all 1099s will you have money withheld from it. And then we got other forms. W-2Gs, if you actually gambled and you took your money from your gambling, like you took taxes out from your gambling, that's that W-2G. That's what they're talking about. Medicare tax withheld, some additional federal tax withheld on a Schedule K1. It goes into that other form section. That's the one thing we didn't break down in the full detail. All right. And then everything else we kind of talked about. It is, right, you getting in front of your estimated tax payments. If y'all don't take away nothing else, that estimated tax payment, get the difference between what an estimated tax payment versus a balance due payment versus your money being withheld from your paycheck, so you can understand what is going on there. All right, so let's jump back over to the 1040 real quick. Excuse me. Just jump back over to the 1040 just real quick so we can talk about. Now, you'll see that there's a section on the return, refund and amount you owe. Refund and amount you owe, right? Now, if what you owe them people is less than what you paid them people, or if you paid them people too much, you paid them people more than what you owe them, you're going to get a refund. Why? Because it say you overpaid them people. They got to get your money back. No interest, no penalties. That's what they're getting you, okay? If you owe them people more than what you paid them people, or you didn't pay them people enough, you're going to owe them, meaning you're going to have to strike a check. That's just how it goes. It just really is math. You got to know what your tax liability is, and then you got to know actually how much you actually paid them people. If you didn't pay them enough, they're going to be like, thank you. You have a balance due now. You got us up to this point. You owe us the money. So, and then I will stress this down here. If you are paying somebody to prepare your taxes, please have them sign this tax return. That's if you want them to answer questions. But down here, if you actually pay somebody to do your tax return, pay preparer. Make sure they fill this out and check it. Because if you gave somebody some money to do a tax return, we are supposed to be filling this out. Okay? Now, I want you to keep this in mind. You can be in your feelings about the fact that you got to stroke the IRS a check or the state comptroller a check. I have been there. I have done it. I told you, I've had to strike a 5-figure check twice. Doesn't feel good. I understand all the physical things that go in and your body. I understand what it does. The physiological things, psychological things, all the emotions. It's not cool. However, the person you have to check is going to be yourself, because this tax return is a report of what happened in the previous year. If you didn't do any proactive tax planning or any estimating or anything like that to figure out if you was on point and you owe them people, the only person you can look at is yourself in the mirror and have that conversation with yourself to be like, I don't like striking the check. I understand the rules. I got to understand. If they calculated I owe them people that much and I ain't paying them that, I got to give them money. But it just don't feel good. I get it. You cannot be mad, nor should you be mad at the preparer. You can question the preparer. Hey, can you educate me on this? Can you give me some ideas around this? And it's up to the preparer to tell you or not tell you. Understand the preparer has their prerogative to decide if they want to have you go do recommend that you do tax planning. And if they choose to charge, that's on them. Tax planning is not tax preparation. Tax preparation is this. This is that reconciliation of the information from the year before, because the IRS already know what money you got. They just don't know your deductions. And so therefore we're reconciling that to see, hey, do you actually owe this much? Or did you overpay us? That's what we're doing. We're doing a reconciliation. That's it. That's what a tax return is. Tax planning deals with, okay, how are we actually coming up and leveraging strategies in the tax code that allows us to get in front of any tax liability that we may have, so that we got an idea of what we owe them people, so we can get in front of that. A tax plan may be developing the strategy, presenting it to you, implementing the strategy, giving you a projection. But that's all depending on what kind of relationship you go into with the person that is tax planning. That is separate and distinct from tax preparation. I have taken the time over these last 4 or 5 weeks to break down and explain to you the numbers that you need to be paying attention to on your tax return, those subcategories, and explaining to you what goes into them subcategories, so you have a little bit more knowledge behind the things you need to be concerned about and have a better understanding of how to read this tax return as it currently is. That doesn't make you a tax expert. There are a whole bunch of different rules and regulations in the tax code that's going to implement this, but it does allow you to read this report, which is a reconciliation of what happened in your life from a tax stance the year before. Hopefully, this was helpful for you. Hopefully, it takes a deep dive in and you understand and can have those conversations now with whomever prepares your taxes. And if you are one of my clients, I am so grateful you're here. I hope you took the time and broke this down and understood it. And now when I do the explanation, it clicks even more than the way I've been explaining it before. I try to do my best to show you how your numbers come together, but I pray that over these last couple of weeks, this actually said, okay, now I know what I'm looking at and I can formulate my questions in a different manner so that I can understand it. And if I did not do a great job of presenting it to a way that you can absorb it or that it was palatable, let me know so that we can have that discussion. I hope you walked away understanding the 4 numbers that I feel are so critical, right? And I threw the cousin in there. The queen, the Kang, what you owe them people, what you pay them people, and how it all comes together to determine whether or not they're going to give you some money back or you're going to stroke them a check. Until next week, you all have a very Merry Christmas. Spend time with your loved ones. Find your peace. Take a nap. I was going to say something so derogatory. It was not going to be right. I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to end it here. Y'all take it easy. And until next week, I'm going to holler at you. Peace.